Welcome to Pay Attention, a podcast guiding you from the chaos of the mind to the clarity of the heart. Here's your host, Holly McNeill.
Hello and welcome. I am coming to you from the sunny Central Coast of California. I'm up here with a friend who lost her husband last year, and recently her house flooded and she just needed to get away. So we're up here in beautiful Cambria. The sun is shining. It's lovely. I have to tell you though, it was raining the entire time I drove up from Irvine, from Orange County, and it'll be raining on my way home tomorrow, but it's been so lovely to be here with her. But today, unfortunately, my guest in today's podcast in the recording, she's here in her recording, but she wasn't able to come live. But I met her when I had the opportunity, which was amazing and wonderful, to speak at the Women's Mental Health Conference at Yale this last May. And, you know, that's kind of nerve-wracking. That's a big deal. So I'm sitting in the audience listening to the keynote speaker because I was a little bit later in the day, you know, doing my breathing and just being grateful to be there. And next to me, I start talking to this woman, and she has the most calming, amazing energy. We just hit it off right away, and it was so lovely. And it turns out that she's a trauma coach or a trauma therapist. And she was actually speaking as well. It was her first time speaking, so I gave her some tips. It was lovely, and she's here with me today. She came and and met me in the studio, and we recorded. And I have a beautiful, beautiful gift to give to you today. So please enjoy. Hello, I'm Holly McNeill, the Mindfulness Architect, and welcome to another episode of Pay Attention, where we're paying attention not only to the hidden influences in our body and mind that could, without awareness, create the world we live in, but also in what's between our thoughts, emotions, and feelings. You know, what do you find in the silence, stillness of who we really are? Today, I have a guest that I met at the Yale Women's Mental Health Conference. We were both speaking a couple of months ago in May, and we were sitting waiting for the keynote speaker to talk, to give her a talk. And we were sitting next to each other, and we clicked, and we have so much, in some ways, a lot of similarities. In some ways, our backgrounds are completely different. And so today, I'm just excited to bring her on, Dr. Jada Phillips. Welcome to Pay Attention. Thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We were just talking about before this recording, how we just clicked. So just when the energies are right and you know that people are on the same page, that happens, you know, when you're open and I guess open to it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what your passions are, and we'll go from there.
Yes. By professional name, Dr. Jada Phillips, but I like to tell people, call me Jada. I'm human. And the work I do is I'm a trauma therapist, leaning into coaching as well, because I really, really, truly have a passion working with individuals, helping them to see themselves. And the hallmark is more so to come home to you. Because as we spoke about, you know, being on autopilot and just moving through life during COVID, everybody's kind of forced to, shut down for a moment. And a lot of people really struggled in that space. And that space spoke to me because during that time I was working in a prison. And I used to tell inmates when they were in prison, I said, this is a good time for you to slow down because they live very fast lives. And I said, I know it sucks, but it's let's slow down and maybe we can sit with and figure out what do you want to do? What direction do you want to go outside of, what got you here? And when COVID happened, not wanting to compare the two together, but everybody had to kind of pause for a little bit is the essence, this pause. And a lot of people struggle with that because to me, that was kind of like an awakening. We kind of came off of autopilot. It was what am I doing with my life? Where am I going? What is this? And that's where my private practice kind of launched out of. There's a whole background story into why I end up launching. And it was really to work with the people, the frontline workers, the first responders during COVID on the trauma piece. But in that space, I also found a lot of people coming to me because of that. this big pause that they had, and what do I do with my life and what's happening? And I found so much passion in bringing them back to who they were, coming off the autopilot and just like, well, what do you want to do? And what I learned is I started calling in all these women and some men. I'm not just working with women, I have men as well, but ones that are always doing and giving and they're always outward, that they actually forgot about themselves over time. So it's a lot of self-abandonment that I came across, and that's where my passions are right now.
Wow. Wow. What a story. I mean, working in prisons, and I've never really thought of the COVID pandemic as an awakening, but you're right. It did cause everyone, similar to those people that are incarcerated, to stop and pause when we often don't pause. And I love all the hats that you wear, the licensed psychologist, speaker, coach, and working with those frontline people during COVID. It's amazing. It must have been an amazing experience for you. So yeah, let's talk about autopilot. I mean, when we're going, I find when we have this conditioning from childhood that we've got these patterns and habits that we start to believe as our identity. You talk about coming back to who we are, right? And I'm all about that. But when I find when I talk to people about that, if they're not open to it, they're right in those patterns and habits. They can't see beyond them. Mm-hmm. So have you found that? Have you found it when people come to you, they're pretty much ready and open and willing and wanting to see something different?
Yes, definitely. I think in mental health in general, at least a lot of my background, a lot of people were kind of forced in the different settings that I've been in. Mm-hmm. But what I like about the private practice and this coaching space is you're not forced. Most people come to me because they're like, something's wrong or this is happening. Can you help? So I would say it's a huge piece of readiness. If you're not ready, like we're not deep diving, work will not be done. So there's a readiness to say like, I'm noticing or I'm having awareness around where I'm at or who I am or what's going on. And I need to, initially is like this fixing, but what we come to learn is we're not really fixing. Maybe we're undoing and shifting and changing.
Unraveling, uncovering who we are under all those beliefs. So yeah, interesting. So I guess in the prisons, they were pretty much, and other places, they were not forced, but this was something that they did. And so I imagine that you did come across people that were more closed off to the idea. So I guess the first thing on anybody's journey is wanting something different. And yeah, a lot of times for me personally, I had to hit a real low point, and certainly during COVID, everyone had to face their demons. And it's too bad that there isn't kind of teachings earlier on in school about this amazing kind of light and awareness that we are, and that we all seem to have to find a place where we're stuck and lost before we look for help.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, that tends to be what happens, some big tragedy. And then, we have, I don't want to say the word awakening because maybe that's a strong word, but it seems like when we lose somebody, it's like, oh my gosh, wait, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I love you. I love you. And like, we're all open because we get a flash of life is passing us by. But then again, once that settles, we're right back to our being on autopilot again.
Yeah, I wonder if that's why at the end of people's lives they have so much regret, because they just don't realize, if you're living from those habits and patterns, you're really not living in the present moment, right? You're living to appease something or to be accepted, and that's how life passes you by, I suppose. Yeah. So you said you didn't like to use the word awakening, which is a strong word. And I love to hear you say that because, coming from a psychological background, there's always kind of the question between, therapy and coaching and what the difference is. And I think awakening is a great word to use.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if it was like too big. Like, some people think like I'm awakened and that's it. No, like it could be a peak and maybe it's not as grand sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. When I first started my practices, I tried to stay away from those words because, I'm trying to not scare off anyone that's not that spiritual or looking just for some self-help. But now I think, screw that. So
I like that. I like that. I like that a lot.
yeah, I mean, there's such a journey from that lost and closed off, and you can take it as far as you want to go, right? It's your life. It's your journey. So what do you tell people that come to you, or what are some of your most biggest stories of transformation, or was there some personal transformation in your life that caused you to really have this passion to help others?
I almost feel like it's a little intertwined because, as being in therapy or as a psychologist, we do our own work. And when I was in my program, one of the professors made a great statement. She was like, hurt people hurt people. So make sure you do the work you need to do as in this profession so that we don't then go in and hurt other people.
Wow.
Trying to do the work with them. Because there is this countertransference that tends to happen.
Mm-hmm.
As humans, like we can really relate with something somebody's gone through. So it's like, as I've done work, even working with clients, stuff will come up. I'm like, oh, and then it gives me an awareness, maybe something I didn't even know was present in me. So I've had, like, if we're going to use the word awakening, different points of awakening of things, layers that I didn't even know were present. So as I had my own work going and coming back to myself and how much that feels, that authenticity feels so amazing. And then wanting to show other people that, because then when they see it, they feel the same way. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, yes. And they feel it. And then it just fills me because then they see what I see or I felt. And I'm like, now you're feeling it. And it's such a nice feeling. But I tell clients all the time, I'm like, as we're doing work, things could go well. Like I'm aware, and I'm doing well. And then there's moments where, maybe we get triggered or something happens. And like, oh my God, I was doing so well. And look what happened. And now I'm 5 steps back and I'm like, no, actually that's great. Because we have layers we haven't even accessed yet. Yeah. So sometimes we'll hit something we didn't even know was there. It's not going backwards. It's another layer that opened up and said, hello, I'm here. Let's work on this, or I'm ready to work on something that maybe was buried. So even when stuff comes up for me, I'll make a note. I'm like, I got to come back to that because I did not know that was there. And it's like a new layer kind of awakened.
Yeah, it's true. And I talk about, there's Robert Bly has this poem called The Long Bag We Drag Behind Us. Of course, he's the late Robert Bly, about when we're young, we have these 360-degree personalities. We're literally balls of light radiating out in every direction. And as we get older and then people tell us, good girls don't do that or good boys don't behave that way, we stuff those parts of us in a bag. And in middle school, there's our peers and our teachers, and in high school. And we do that until we're in our late 20s. And I love how you talk about layers, because there's things about your personality, things about the way you live and about the way you create your life that you really can't even see until you get kind of some of those layers unpacked. So it is an ebb and flow of transformation. I've heard recently someone say that, being on earth is like being in graduate school, right? For the soul. It's not easy, right?
No.
But, and I don't know if it's meant to be easy. And if so, people are looking, even they say people when they're awakened, that's not, you don't just get there and all of a sudden life is, roses and bunny rabbits, It's just a way of relating to what comes up. You're either reacting from inside of it, or you can see it.
Yes, that's great.
So I call it either the we live our lives in one of two places, either the entanglement camp, entangled in our thoughts, emotions, and feelings, habits, patterns, and defaults, or aware of them in awareness. And so I tell people that we're not any of that, right? Because when you were first born, you weren't, before you were even named Jada, right? You were aware, you were conscious, right? So all of those patterns and habits, all of those layers are covering up this beautiful bright light of who you really are. So,
yeah.
So tell us about the Awakening Studio. What is that? And how long have you had it? What do you do with it?
The Awakening Studio, and I'm like, they're all my baby. started from, I have a private practice doing trauma therapy called Reserved for You Psychological Services. And I wanted to be able to lean into coaching because in therapy, I guess I'm not even sure the terminology, but in the therapy world and psychology, everything is, I'm not even sure how to use the words. I don't want to say, I know I'm trying to be careful how to say this.
Don't be careful.
You know,
Just
you have,
say it.
you have guidelines to follow. And I know in coaching, you have guidelines to follow too, but therapy is more, I want to say for me, feels like a box. So I love the work that I do, but I want to be more free is the feeling. So there's like things that I feel like I don't want to say I can't do, but they feel like you can't do, or I don't want to even say would be unethical. I just wanted to expand more. Let's just say that. So I wanted to open up coaching and be more free with the work I do and not be bound, which basically comes down to a huge part is title of a diagnosis.
Diagnosis, yeah.
Majority of clients I work with are using insurance, and insurance only pays if there's a medical necessity and it has to tie to what is this diagnosis that's affecting their day-to-day life.
Right.
And, I've come across people that there's stuff going on, but sometimes it's not enough for a diagnosis. It doesn't meet criteria. So I'm like, I can't use you with your insurance because I'm bound by this box that you're not fitting in. So I wanted to be able to open up coaching and be able to work with people outside of not just insurance in this, having a diagnosis, but also like insurance can be intrusive. If they ever want to read notes to find out, like, let's see the work you're doing is a progression, they can ask for information. Whereas coaching and people who do private pay for therapy, that's private. Nobody can have access to that but the person. So there's that piece, but also in coaching, I can just be more open with different techniques and things that I want to use that may not formally fit into the psychology world is what I'm trying to say. And then psychology, I'm not saying and therapy is necessarily always doing work in the past, but obviously my trauma work, I am in the past. We're working through things to that interweave to where we are presently. Whereas the coaching is like, where are you right now? And maybe short term, what's the goal to get to? And we can focus on like these goals that we want to get to. And I know therapy has goals too, but they're more based again in these diagnoses, the anxiety, the trauma, the depression. So it's like to have the two be separate. And the Awakening Studio launched, it's just been a year, shy of a year. I opened it or formally launched on International Women's Day. So on March 8th of 2024. And it kind of birthed from me. I worked with a business coach and she worked with me intuitively. Whatever came through her, she would talk to me about, and whatever came through me, I just started creating just literally intuitively, nothing I would ever thought about, and came out this idea called the fifth season. And it's a season of you. We have 4 seasons of the year, but it's a season for yourself. And it's here all the time, and to come back to the season. And then that branched into this self-love course that didn't really blow up too big. But out of the self-love course came the Awakening Studio. I was like, all right, I'm going to put this in a coaching business, have coaching, this course, and other tools, but I want it under a hub of services. So Awakening Studio is this awakening to you, to come back home to you. And here are different tools and services that you can use to come back to yourself, self-discovery.
I love that. Wow, that was a great answer, very comprehensive. And I've heard I've heard the definition of the difference between psychology and coaching. Psychological therapy and coaching similar. Exactly what you said. There has to be a diagnosis, and there's certain parameters, and there has to be a problem. And where coaching is more of where are you at? What do you like? What do you not like? Where do you want to be? How do you want to move forward? What maybe is holding you back? And I've been accused a long time ago of dissing therapy, in doing my in some of the teachings I've done, but they're not mutually exclusive, right? I think it's important. It's very important to understand the traumas that you've been in, right? And especially for frontline workers or people in high stress jobs, to understand what might be triggering you under stress. And so therapy definitely, I mean, I had two especially wonderful therapists that I worked with over the years. So definitely there's a place for that, a place for healing and understanding. And then there's a place for coaching. The whole idea of coming off of autopilot, because those habits and patterns that we do create from trauma, if we're not aware of them, we reinforce them and they get stronger and stronger over the years. We have this neural net in our brain and it doesn't stay the same, right? Either the connections get stronger in those beliefs and patterns, or when you don't engage them anymore, they break apart, leaving space for other things, for your fifth season, as you said. So I love that. Yeah, your talk at Yale. Tell us a little bit about what you talked about and how your experience was.
Yeah, I spoke about disrupting the script.
Mm-hmm.
And the script is kind of like what you're saying. When we grow up, we have these things that are kind of told to us, like, girls don't do this, or boys don't cry, or, you have to get straight A's for me to show you love. So it's like different things that scripts were kind of given growing up or we fall into. And it's kind of undoing some of the things that we realize we really aren't. Maybe they were helpful at the time. Maybe they were parts of us that helped us survive or make it through things. Mm-hmm. But also now it's like, let's rewrite those scripts. Let's rewrite these stories that we tell ourselves. So speaking a lot to that. And then anytime I like to tell my clients or anybody I'm working with is like, I do the work too. I've done the work. I'm not speaking from a mountaintop. This is like lived experience. Mm-hmm. I felt for me, I would say I'm a people pleaser. I like to make sure everybody's good. Are you good? Are you good? You good? And I say people pleasers have a superpower. We're able to see people in a different way than anyone else. We can see everything. We can feel everything about this person. So we will tend to that. And I think that's a superpower. But also because we're tending to everybody else, we forget ourselves. We put ourselves last. Like, this can wait because I'm doing this for everybody else. So I spoke about like undoing that script for myself and say, like, it's also okay to take care of myself. This isn't selfish and I matter as well. And that was like one of my things that I had to work through. And this is one of the big things I help others work through as well.
Yeah, actually, I remember now when we were talking, when we were sitting waiting for the keynote, you told me the name of it was Disrupting the Script. And I did listen to a little bit of it. You have a recording of it online. And yeah, there's these modes we get into from trauma, the fight, flight, freeze, and now they call the fawn, which is the people pleaser, and always, checking everybody else's energy and forgetting, as you said, to check your own, and feeling guilty and like unworthy of even taking care of yourself when you reach out and take care of other people to just, an ungiving or an unwielding degree where it just drains you. So I love that idea. And really it's kind of disrupting the script is we should call this episode Disrupting the Script. It's a great title. It's about check out what your script is. How many people even know what their script is? Right?
Yeah. And that's where the awareness comes in. You have to be aware first before you can do anything next.
Yeah. Yeah. I asked someone on a previous podcast, he's like, I said, what's the first step? And he goes, well, I came on your podcast because it's called Pay Attention. And you really do need to, we don't pay attention. We're never taught, I don't think, as children, how important it is to pay attention to what we're thinking, that we are not those thoughts, habits, and patterns, that we're creating them, that we have control over them, that we can change them to create the world we want. Our minds are very powerful. But when left on autopilot, you see all of the results from trauma. And it doesn't have to be a big T for trauma. It can be little trauma. And it can be so devastating, detrimental for people. And it doesn't have to be, right? If you just start to pay attention and become aware of where your thoughts are taking you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to someone right now, to the listeners, who might feel that they, or might not even know you're on autopilot, or might not, I don't know, what would you give to someone who comes to you, or just a piece of advice that you could give the listeners about, starting that fifth season?
The fifth season, I like to have people ask themselves to check in daily.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I always start with everybody, like, I know daily might be a lot. How will we check in once a week?
Yeah. Okay.
And then if you get used to that, maybe then you can move into let me check in daily, but quick. It doesn't have to be extensive. How was my day? Like, it's really this, I call it self-intimacy, or somebody else might call it, I don't know who coined it, but self-intimacy. Having that moment with yourself you would have with a friend when you call, like, hey girl, how was your day? Or like, what did you do? Do it with yourself. How was my day? How am I feeling right now? Just, check in with your body. Like, I'm feeling a little anxious right now. It's been a long day. I have so much on my mind. And just find out, like, what's happening. It's like, did I take care of myself today? Did I treat myself today? How have I been to me today? And having this inner dialogue. Have I been compassionate? Have I been beating myself up? Have I been really on myself about something I did or did not do right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, take that moment and say, okay, what do I need right now? And it's like, I just need a hug, or I just need to, like, take a shower and go to sleep. But it's honoring that. Like, we'll say we need things, but we don't do it. So part of that is self-trust. Build the trust with yourself. I say I need this, and then offer it, do it.
I love that. I love that advice. I mean, you say once a day is too much. I tell people check in 1 minute 6 times a day eventually.
Okay.
to make a habit of it, right? To make a habit of checking in. But that is excellent advice. Everything, you just said, if you're not taking care of yourself is not trusting that you will take care of yourself. So just that check in. Hey, I love it. Hey girl, how you doing? Do you need a little bit more compassion today? We don't give ourselves enough compassion, understanding, for sure. Kindness, things that are free. I mean, a bath is great. A nap is great, but you don't even have to do that. You can just offer, I got you. I got you, girl. I'm here for you. So lovely advice. So, Jada, if someone wanted to reach out to you right now, would you rather someone reach out to you as Jada, the therapist, or Jada, the coach, or the speaker, or the, what's your biggest kind of thing you want to push out to the world right now?
I would say Jada, the coach, or the speaker. The speaker because, it's a bigger audience and maybe not everybody is aware or ready yet. So I can at least, that's the reason why I wanted to go into speaking. I'm like, I don't think people know they need me. So I can go out and speak and just say some key things that may or may not touch someone. They're not going to hit everybody, but whoever it does, then they can then awaken and step forth to, whether it's me or somebody else, to start a process they want to work on.
I love that.
Then the coaching, because like I said, I want to be more open with having these containers of work that I do, and the therapy side, I'm full, like at my capacity. So this is like me leaning into outside of that, just to, I don't want to say I don't even know. It's not necessarily a break, but that's heavier work. And this one is a little bit lighter. So for me to have a balance of the two.
I love that. I love that of the three. And you're right with speaking. When people are ready, they will hear you. Right. And when you're able to speak, you're able to get to more people. And I've been, and when I'm looking out at the audience and I see maybe just one person and they're just dialed in and they just hear you. So yeah, I love that balance. And from what I've heard so far, and from what I've met you before, I can see why your therapy calendar is full, and also why you want to do more speaking and coaching, and getting out to more people. So how do people get a hold of you if they do want to reach out?
They can reach out, website, and I always say website because then you can send a contact, but they can send an email, which is connected there. But the website is theawakeningstudio.com, or you can do Dr. J at theawakeningstudio.com for email. And then I have Instagram. Instagram is at Dr. J _awakening studio. But all of it, if you go to the website, you can click all of those because they're all on there. That's why I said that one might be the easiest way to doing it. But they all connect to me.
Okay. All right. And we
Yeah.
can put some of those links in the description. So anyway, it's been lovely. It was very, very lovely meeting you at
Wow.
at Yale. I mean, what an exciting opportunity to speak there and to meet other speakers and colleagues talking about this wonderful journey that we're on and awakening and disrupting the script, finding that openness, that peace and joy and moving your life in the direction you want to see it. So thank you, Jada, for joining me today. And I'm sure
for having me.
Yes, we'll run into each other again. Thank you, listeners, for listening to another episode of Pay Attention. And I know I always learn a little bit from this. As Jada said, you don't know what's inside you until you're doing. I love doing these talks because I always learn a little bit. And as I did today, and I hope you did as well. So please join us in another episode of Pay Attention. Wow, Jada is just amazing. I just love her energy, the pause, the disrupting the script, and the personal intimacy she talked about. Because we don't often check in with ourselves, and we're always looking, trying to be okay on the inside by changing things on the outside. But it's that inner personal journey that is really going to get you there. That first kindness, compassion, and paying attention to your script. And actually, often when I do these interviews, we stop the recording and we have a little bit of a chat, and then another beautiful nugget comes up. And with the holidays approaching, everybody, it can be stressful, it can be lonely for people. I have just one more little nugget from Jada. I decided we got to talking and we decided to come back on and give you this. So I just wanted to come back on and say that afterwards, we talked a little bit about what happened to both of us after Yale. And so I was telling Jada how where she's really busy with work and trying to make this transition, life has handed me a pause. Like everything has kind of halted, kind of like when things fall apart. I think there's a book by Pema Chodron called that. And so I'm still doing the podcast. I've slowed it down because I do love the podcast, but I'm really just pausing and letting, kind of going inside, letting it all fall apart, all the ego. I've given myself permission. I've disrupted the script, given myself permission to stop pushing. And you're kind of on the same place.
Yeah, same place. I'm like in between, like I said, this therapy and transition into coaching and speaking. And I was telling you, not normally, but in the past, this would have been a space I didn't sit well in. I'm like, oh, I can't sit here. I got to do something. What can I do? Can I find more clients? Can I fill this up? Can I don't know, build a plane? Just anything to fill the space, which I was saying, like our nervous systems, we're used to doing. They're wired for that. So it's really hard to settle and pause, which I teach a lot of clients. Like you might need a minute a day. Pause for a minute, go back to what you're doing because you have to train your nervous system. We're safe. It's safe to pause.
Yeah.
I don't have to do. So this pause for me now is like, I get it. This is nice. I can be in it and not feel like I need to do anything.
I get it. I was talking about that on another episode that, you have to work and you have to pay bills, but I love that it's okay to pause. And I've heard the same thing. And obviously, you know what you're talking about, but the nervous system is set up. Mine is set up to go, go, go. And I've given myself again, permission to pause and it feels good this time. And I'm ready for it. So I just wanted to come back on and tell everyone that, you know what, wherever you're at in your life, it's okay to take a breath, to really, to go inside and see what's there. So thanks for listening. I hope you all take a pause. Thanks again, Jada. We'll see you on another episode of Pay Attention. So this is me pausing, right? Especially during the holidays when sometimes you have time off and it's it's okay. Not only is it okay to pause, it's that chaos in your head that causes a lot of your struggle and your pain. And if you do pause, and I often find this, like I said, I have backed away from a lot of stuff, doors closed. Our journey ebbs and flows. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. And the goal is to be present, to be cool, to be aware, to be at peace, no matter what's ebbing or what's flowing. And a lot of that trouble is from pushing and wanting to fill that space. But you will find if you take a pause, if you just let life flow within you and through you, things start to happen as if by their own fruition, right? We are on this wonderful human journey. And a lot of times it's all that pushing and all that chaos in our heads that's really the trouble. And in the silence, in the stillness, in giving yourself permission to let stuff go, let things fall apart, you find your way, you find your peace, your love, yourself, that self-intimacy. During the holidays, give yourself permission to step back. And if things aren't working, life is showing you maybe it's time to look inside. It's a beautiful, wonderful journey, and that peace is there for you at all times. You just have to pause, take a breath, and be open to it. So we've got Thanksgiving next week. I'm not going to have any guests come on the day before Thanksgiving, but I will just do a little talk for you on gratitude. I'm going to be talking a little bit about alienation, because with the holidays, it's not joyful for everyone. Some people have struggles, of course. So anyway, I hope to see you again. I know I've said thank you a million times for coming today, but really, it's been a wonderful day. I love Jada. I loved her energy. And take a pause, give yourself a hug, check in, and I'll see you next time on Pay Attention.
Thanks for watching Pay Attention with Holly McNeill. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week on Wednesday at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern.